Hello everyone. Welcome to our first spring quarter general meeting. I need to change that, but be sure to sign in. If you're graduating, you want those points for grad regalia. You just want all the points you can. We also have like a raffle, which we'll talk more about a little bit later. But be sure to sign in. If you missed the sign in, after the general meeting, you can still come up to the front, and we'll re-show this slide. So I'll just like have this here for like 5 seconds. Okay, I see like thumbs put away. But without a further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So this is the team for this year. If you get a chance, please do talk to them because we are still missing our historian. So Patty is here if you would like to talk to her and you're considering running for that position for next year. Yay. So we do have a lot of upcoming events. Here is the breakdown, all the activity points. Also peep my background. We'll talk more about that later as well. But our next journal meeting is week 4. So yes. So we do have membership applications, Paris.
Hello, it's your membership person here. Membership applications are open. Have you ever thought, I really want to be an official member of Saikai? Now is your chance. They open up every quarter, but now's the spring quarter one. Don't miss your opportunity. The deadline to fill out the Google form is going to be Friday, April 21st at 5 p.m. Please do that. If you have any questions, feel free to DM us on Instagram, on Discord, send us an email and we'll help you work that out. But yes, please make sure you apply.
Okay, and then we're gonna have a badminton tournament. So please join us this Thursday. So that's actually tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Pierce Lawn. If you don't know, it's the lawn right next to the bell tower. So now you do know. You do not need experience. You don't need birdies. You don't need rackets. All that will come. And we can just have a quick toss before class. So please join.
So for everyone that loves boba, tomorrow we'll be having our 7 Leaves fundraiser, an easy way for you to earn 2 activity points for the spring quarter. The 7 Leaves fundraiser is officially from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. the entire day tomorrow. So as long as you show them the flyer, 20% of the proceeds will be given back to Saikai. If you're interested, we do have a social as well from 6:45 to 7:45 p.m. Please look at the weekly email to see the carpool form for more information. Yeah.
Challenger discussions. I actually see many of you who have signed up for those. Please get excited. We have our very first one of the quarter, which is going to be our lovely Alyssa Hames talking about how can you commit a murder. Disclaimer, Saikai is not responsible for what happens next. But please join us this Friday, 5 to 6 in the SSC. It's going to be a killer event.
Wow. Okay. And then that same, maybe you want to hear me talk about murder, and then you want to have like a cute girls night or a guy night. We could go to the night market. So we're going to do a new series called Adventure Time. So it's basically, we're just going to explore Riverside together, have some good laughs. This is going to be a night market that's going to have a bunch of local businesses. So if you want to pop in, pop out, get some good sourdough bread, they have an amazing pot. Please join us.
Inner chapter game night. What are all those chapters up to? Let's go and ask them while we play some fun games. So Monday, April 17th, 6 to 7 on Zoom. If you want to do this from the comfort of your bed with your camera off, that is totally fine. We're going to do some Jackbox, Arctic Phone, all of those fun things, and get to know each other, and that'll be 1 activity point. That's also me. Antique crawl. Do you like weird little things that people have collected and are now in antique stores? Come to the antique crawl. We're going to this place. This is part of our Adventure Time series. So we're going to the Mission Galleria in downtown Riverside. Gonna check out all the fun, mysterious little goodies they have there. That'll be Friday, April 21st, 6 to 8 p.m. If you need a ride or you want a ride, please fill out the carpool form by Friday, April 14th, so we can coordinate that. And we hope to see you guys there and hopefully find some cool stuff.
Okay. So this is our new project. It's called the Green Mind Project. And basically, it's all about saving the planet. So there's going to be 3 different events. And this is our first seminar. It's about ocean health. And then if you can see, there's a little hydro flask there. If you go to all 3 Green Mind seminars,
you can be entered in a raffle to win a Hydro Flask, some beeswax, as well as an air purifier. So great bang for your buck. That's going to be Thursday, April 20th at the SSC Multipurpose Room 1, or you could join us on Zoom, which will still count for entering the raffle. I'm just going to say. So this is also going to be our beach cleanup. So this goes with the Ocean Mind Seminar. So if you want to go to the beach, let's go get away, you know, if you want to have some fun, we're going to go to Newport Beach and we're going to do a quick beach cleanup. So you can see we'll start cleaning up for an hour and 30, and then I'll let you have an hour and 30 just hanging out on the pier. So yes, it's going to be 5 hours of community service as well as 2 activity points. So please join us and then you can sign up there. Ethics. Join us for our next share circle. This will be Monday, April 21st, time and day and all that stuff up here. We're going to be talking about ethics. So if you ever want to talk more about unethical studies, topics about ethics in psychology, whether you're an undergrad or a grad student, whatever, we're going to be touching into that. Might talk a little bit about lobotomy, so that'll be fun.
Okay, y'all, our largest event this spring is RSci, and the application to submit your abstract is due this month. It is due Wednesday, April 26th at midnight. So please be sure to submit your abstracts. Do not miss this out. And just as a little sneak peek, if you are not able to submit an abstract, if you're not presenting, we do have a little like research proposal thing coming up. So be on the lookout for that you could earn possible grant for. So yeah, and our psych itself will be held on Friday, May 26th. So be sure to spread the word. And of course, we are still looking for a historian. So the deadline has been extended to week 5, Tuesday, May 2nd at midnight. And we need you. So please do apply. You can also check out the guidelines here. If you do have questions, Patty, I know, is more than willing to help answer any of your questions. Probably like the most important thing for like us graduating seniors, right? So graduation regalia. So if you did graduate back in fall or winter, or if you know of someone that graduated back in fall or winter, or will be graduating this spring or the next quarter, which is summer, please do fill out this form by Friday, May 5th at 11:59 p.m. to receive your gift card. It will be based on your activity point status, which we'll talk more about in the next slide. And you do have to reach your ACT status or whatever status you're trying to aim for by the following week, which is week 6, to be eligible for the discount. That way, this gives you enough time to be able to purchase your grad regalia directly from the Saikai store and also have it delivered here, probably in time for inductions and as well as commencement or your photos. So just speaking about activity points, this is the activity point breakdown, the same as last quarter. So bronze is 5 points, silver is 9 points, and gold is 12 points. And as you can see, there are also other benefits for whatever status you are in. And do keep in mind that we also will be having a larger raffle this spring quarter at the end. So be on the lookout for that. You do want to collect your activity points.
Okay, so talking about inductions, this is when our spring 2023 induction ceremony will take place. So it's Friday, May 19th at 5 p.m. We will be having food, so you can have free food, fun activities. You also, if you're a FLIMP, if you're a FLIMP B, if you're a graduating student, or if you've just been inducted, welcome to Saikai. Please come. If you sign up, you can also have a little spot where you can talk about your achievements and be highlighted during the ceremony. Okay. So this is bingo punishments. I think a lot of you have already heard about it. So basically, as a board, some of us decided to do like these little bingo punishments. So here you can see Paris's. So hers is if you give her $15 and you Venmo her it, she would do a cooking live stream. So that's a lot of fun. Here on mine, you can see if you pay me $5, I'll just shoot a shot of Tabasco. So Matthew paid me $5. So thank you, Matthew. So you all can now watch me do a shot of Tabasco to just show you what this is going to be about. Okay, so here's my thing. Yum, that was great. So if you would like to see me do that again, do I look like I'm bored? But if you would like to see me do it again, please Venmo me $5. This goes to all the programs, all the events. All the events, everything that we do, this money will go to it. So you can see Tiffany, me, Paris,
Brandon, and then Ashley and Abigail, which are future flip coordinators, have all been a part of this. So please, if you find anyone that you're interested in, yeah, so as you can see mine is a lovely Zoom background. So if you want, you can pay me $5, send me whatever image or item or whatever you want to see, and I'll have that for my Zoom background, probably for the next general meeting for everyone to see. But please do also visit our office hours. They are on Wednesdays from 3 to 4 p.m. this quarter. They will be at the same room, same Zoom. So be sure to join us. And of course, stay connected. Our email, mailing list, Discord, website, Instagram, Twitter, all that information is here. And afterwards, we do have a social. It will be Family Feud. So if you are here in person or if you're online and you want to come to campus, please do join us. But without a further ado, we are going to go ahead and get started to our panel, and I'm going to hand it off to my co-president to lead this panel.
All right, hello everyone. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with some introductions by our lovely panelists who have volunteered their time to talk to us about psychology and technology, which I know a lot of you are really interested in. So if we can go ahead and start with James.
Hello everyone, I'm James. Graduated in 2022 with a BA in psychology and a minor in computer science. I'm currently a software dev at Epic Systems, which is a healthcare software company that provides electronic health records for mid-large healthcare organizations. You've probably already seen them like sending out like applications for like on Handshake. If you're on Handshake, these guys are probably recruiting right now. So I applied on a whim last year as like just for fun, and here I am now. So yeah, nice to meet you all.
Hello, I'm here in person, so kind of a weird thing, but I'm a first-year PhD student in developmental psychology here at UCR. I'm also the founder and CEO or executive director, I don't really know what the title is at this point, of Positivity Outward. So it's a nonprofit. We created an app-based mentorship program for marginalized youth who otherwise wouldn't have access to mentors. I just moved from Montana, so I did my undergrad and a master's there. My undergrad was in neuroscience and biochemistry, and then I had a minor in global health and a minor in biomedical engineering. Don't know why I did that. And my master's was in business. I ride motorcycles. I am a trail runner and a snowboarder.
All right, cool. No, you guys are good. All right, sorry. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the share. That way you guys can actually see our lovely presenters on the full screen. So first thing I would like to ask you two is to go more in depth, what exactly is your field and what are you specifically doing within it? So James, if you want to start out with this one.
Sure, yeah, so I'm working in the healthcare field with software development, specifically electronic health records, as I mentioned before. Let's see what else. Okay, so why did I, what is it? I mean, what else should I say? In terms of like, what do I do? On a day-to-day basis, I guess I code. That's what a software dev does. So I don't know. What else? I'm not really sure what else I can talk about specifically for this question. So I'll throw it to Daria.
I'm a very broad kind of researcher. So even though I'm in psychology and I'm in the emotion regulation lab, I kind of have a bunch of different pieces from a bunch of different areas. But I'm in the emotion regulation lab. And so one of the primary outcomes that we're looking at with Positivity Outward is how these youth develop emotion regulation skills and how that relates to their mental health and general success and wellness outcomes. What do? I do a lot of not knowing what I'm doing, if I'm being completely honest. But since it's my first year here at UCR, I do a lot of coursework and a lot of classes, which is really great since I'm new into psychology, and then getting involved with a couple of other lab projects and then trying to grow the organization.
All right, fantastic. So to get started, what experience led the two of you to pursue this particular field in psychology? Is there anything that was very important in formulating your desire to do this particular thing?
Okay, so I can talk more about this one. This one I can answer. So for me, I've always been like a fan of games. So I always knew that I wanted to like do something with technology. So like from maybe around like 5 or 6, I've been like playing games until now. So I've always wanted to like play with games, make games, maybe do something with technology related. But somehow I ended up in the healthcare field because I want to help people as well. So it's like an interesting mix of like what I want to do. So let's see. So in terms of like experience that helped me like lead to where I am today, I would say throughout throughout high school to college, I've always like dabbled here and there in code. So like in high school, we did like Java, and I took like AP Computer Science, stuff like that. It was always interesting. And then in college, I started to do psychology with computer science as a CS minor because I was interested in learning about people and also like messing with code as usual, just to see if I can like build something, create something to like help others or to help myself. It's usually those like little inspirations that like motivate me to like create something just to make something easier. So yeah, code is like really helpful with that. And yeah, like I said, I always want to be involved in technology because game is like a big part of my life. And one day I hope to develop a game for others to enjoy.
If anybody watched my grad slam pitch, you already know this, but I grew up in very, very rural Wyoming and felt really, really lonely. There wasn't anybody for me to talk to. And as soon as you move to a bigger place, you have access to mentors, you have access to student organizations. There's ways to just feel connected to the people around you. But when your town I technically lived in a town of like 30 people, and then I drove 20 miles to school to a town of 200 people to go to school. And so when I got to college and I realized that my tiny little town is actually 20% of America, because 20% of youth in America live in rural areas, I realized that I wasn't the only one experiencing these challenges, and I decided I wanted to do something about it. And technology was this beautiful way to help bridge that gap between these youth in these rural areas to people all over the world. And I really love how much research is coming out about how we can feel connected through digital interactions, almost as much as in-person interactions. And so it's exciting to be at the forefront of that research, but also to be one of the few people who are in that space of trying to bridge the rural kind of health gap in a way that's not just telehealth and trying to bring professional services in. Because there's so much that exists within that layer of, just going to school, and then you kind of zoom out a little bit so going to school and then accessing professional services, and especially in a rural area where there's a lot of stigma against mental health, a lot of people aren't going to be ready for professional care. And so it's really exciting to be in technology and kind of pushing the field forward and making sure that mental health support and mentors and just someone to talk to is available for anybody in these towns. But there are more people than rural students who need it. And so that's why we've expanded our reach, or expanded our target group to include anybody that might have limited access to mentors.
I'm actually hearing a very interesting common thread between both of your experiences, which is you want to make these resources and reach out to other people to help. And I'm curious, do both of you feel like technology is a crucial piece in expanding mental health services, like both, locally and nationally, but as well as like internationally potentially?
Yeah, actually, follow up on what Zaria said. Is that correct, Zaria? Sorry, how do you pronounce it? It's
Mariah with a Z, Zariah.
Zaria. So sorry, Zaria. Yeah. So like what Zaria said about telehealth, that's something my company does as well. We use telehealth to like get professionals to like see their patients, and I think because of that, there's a lot of like easy access, which is always better. Like giving patients the ability to access their, I guess, doctors or therapists. That's always like a plus, and I agree that technology definitely can pave way for better mental health care.
I don't remember how outdated the statistic is, but I think more people in the world have access to smartphones than water. And so I think technology is a really integral point to be able to bring mental health services. And I've done some work in Uganda that has kind of followed up with that, where these youth are able to connect with people all over the world, and they're able to make kind of small businesses that are having global reach. And seeing that impact that it has on their families and their communities just through that small technology bridge has been very impactful for me. And so we try to do a little bit in a lot of places, but always trying to have that local focus.
So it sounds like you're definitely using that psychology background as you guys are working on your various projects. It sounds like you're both up to some very interesting stuff. We have a question. What research do you tend to utilize in your field? So for you as like a PhD student, there might be some stuff that I see the gears are turning. And then James, for you, I don't know if you have anything particular that you'd like to start off with.
Sorry, I can go first.
So I do a lot within the emotion regulation kind of research, but I would say the discipline that I'm in is mostly developmental. So I'm very interested in researching how things change over time. And because I'm still new to psychology, I didn't really know that there was like developmental versus like social personality versus all these different areas. So I like pulling in a lot of different pieces, but I would say I'm a developmental researcher because I care the most about how people are growing over time and what are the mechanisms that are driving that change. But within developmental, I guess the pilot study that I'm doing within Positivity Outward right now, because I brought in a study from Montana. So it's like I showed up and was like, hey, can I work on this? And my advisor was like, yeah, let's try it. And I feel very lucky to have that opportunity to bring in my own project and have my advisor be so supportive about it. But we're looking at, so it's a longitudinal study. We take 3 different time points of data. So we have that quantitative aspect, and then we do qualitative aspects. So we have 1-month interviews with both our mentees and our mentors. And then same with our partners, because most of the students we have are recruited through partner schools or partner organizations. And then we also have the behavioral data from the app. So looking at how often people are logging in, how many mentors they're connecting with, how frequently they're talking to their mentors, and even looking at the changes in the themes of the chat data. So we can see how if a student started out, they would be using words that would indicate that they were unsure of themselves or a little bit less confident. And then what we're hoping to see, because it's still really early and I have no idea how to analyze chat data, being able to look forward and see if there's changes in themes that represent growth, confidence, and them really achieving the success and wellness that we hope to corroborate with the quantitative data. Don't know if that quite answered the question, but.
It's definitely a better answer than mine. So my answer would be, in my case, I mean, from day to day as a software dev, you work with code, right? But the times I work with client side, like what users see, so user interface, we have to, I guess, as software devs, you have to come up with ways to make the user experience more intuitive. So that's like a field in psychology where it's like a mix of cognitive psychology and yes. So it's like user experience where you want to account for how users interact with your software, what is more intuitive for them, what is the, I guess, the staple way of like swiping, or like, you know how like dating apps or whatever, they swipe right, swipe left, stuff like that. These are all like user experience stuff that people need to account for to make it easier for users to reach whatever they want to do with their software. So these are like the things that I consider for my database work when I work with like client side code. And we also consult with like a user experience to like gauge better ideas on how to approach certain problems.
I actually have a question for you, James, because I know we have a few people in the audience who are really interested in that user experience component. Could you talk a little bit more about the different user experience dilemmas or topics that you've come into during your job?
That's a really good question. Funny thing is, we've actually had issues with strings, with like what we should be saying to like, or what readers want to see in terms of like software, like instructions. How do we want to phrase the instructions to prevent like confusion? How do we get straight to the point? How do we stuff like that? It's like even like the words that you write in your software is considered user experience, which is kind of interesting. We've also considered ways like, for example, toggle buttons. I think like in iPhone settings, you know, like there's like those green swipe buttons that we have. It's like, so those are like the buttons that usually we go to. And if we don't have like I guess if we don't have a way to do it, we will try to find a way to like get something similar, because sometimes different frameworks have different ways of like implementing toggle buttons. So we really want to like replicate like what's the common ground between other softwares, because your customers are not only using your software, but also other softwares. And usually there's like a common ground, which is like toggle buttons, for example, usually is like green or white for not toggled, or sorry, white for not toggled on, and then, or toggled off, and then green for toggled on. So stuff like that, it's like, we consider things like that when we're developing our software. But I can't think of any other examples right now, because recently I was working with buttons, but maybe there's more, but I'll just stop there for now.
If I could add, you don't have to choose between research and user experience. So because we have this app-based program, we have to include a lot, and I didn't build the app, we had somebody else do that, but we had to consider a lot of those same user experience flows, and we overlap it with the research. So things like consent forms can be really big and scary for people, and so we try to make those as readable as possible and make the research feel very approachable for our users. And then instead of it being, like 250 questions long, that'll take them an hour just so that we can get every piece of data, making it as short as possible, so that it doesn't interfere with their day. And so that then we have better user retention. And so you never have to choose like one or the other. If you want to do like a little bit of business and a little bit of psychology and a little bit of coding, you can really create the career that you want depending on what your interests are and find those intersections.
I actually have a question for you, Soraya. Am I saying right? Okay, cool. So for your app, I know you mentioned that you are thinking about what's coming next on the pipe, which includes coding a lot of that chat data. Could you tell us more about how you might want to expand your app or what vision you're seeing for the future?
I've been submitting grant applications like crazy, so I've had to think about this a lot in the last couple of weeks. But the pilot data, or the pilot, will go from now until September. We've got like 70-ish mentors and 70-ish mentees. The next step in the process is going to be running a randomized controlled trial. So right now we can't say that our students are growing because they're participating in the program. We'd have to implement some way to show that that some type of control or some type of randomization to say like, this is the reason our program is the reason why these students are growing. But my goal by the end of year 3, so we're coming up on like the end of year 1, is to have at least 5,000 mentees and 5,000 mentors. But right now I'm kind of the bottleneck in that because I'm the one pretty much doing everything. And so hoping to get some grants, expand the team, kind of take some of this workload off of me and really expand and grow. I think I'm very excited about some partnerships in the works. So we have the school in Los Angeles, which those kids are so amazing. I feel very grateful to work with them. We have some of those partnerships with the rural schools, and then we've been building relationships with a lot of the tribal communities in Montana and Wyoming as well. So very excited about the different groups that have kind of fallen through the cracks so far within research and within kind of intervention work, and hoping to make this accessible and effective for them. But who knows, because we always want to be operating on what our partners' timeline is. Because it should always be their voice and making sure we're understanding where they're coming from. And so that's my goal, but who knows if that'll actually happen. Eventually, one of the ways that I'll try to get myself out of the way a little bit is I'm very involved with the mentor training process. And so trying to automate things as much as possible so that anyone can just sign up on their own. And then a mentor can just sign up and go through the whole process without one person having to facilitate every step of the way. But yeah.
You guys are both very passionate about your work, so I think we're all very excited to hear about the future of your project. We look forward to maybe connecting with you to see what you're up to. Here's another question. Did you always know that you wanted to be involved in technology? For example, like 5 years ago, did you envision yourself, where you are now working on these very tech-heavy projects?
I'm gonna be honest, I knew I wanted to do something in technology, but I didn't know I'll be here today. So it's definitely a interesting question. But like I said, I mentioned that games have always been my passion. That's why I've always been dabbling in technology here and there, making small games on my own time. But I didn't really think I would end up being like a software dev. It just happened to, I guess, happen. It's like there's a lot of things in this world that you don't really know what you want to do, but it just happens. And sometimes I think, I don't know, I guess that's just the way it works.
5 years ago, it was 2018. I was still gonna do an MD PhD program. I was gonna go to med school and be a surgeon at that point. So I had no interest in technology. I was like, oh yeah, the business majors, like, why would I? But I think I learned a lot about myself. The worse things got for my own mental health. And I finally was kind of forced to take a break and to take a gap year. And during that gap year was when I received a scholarship to try to start Positivity Outward. And even from that first month of trying to build something and still having, no idea what I was doing, but finally having control over my own time and being able to be flexible with how I did my work and having a lot of that autonomy, I realized that it was something that I wanted to do. And then I think technology was just the avenue to be able to do that. So I really love being able, like being my own boss basically, and really love that I'm able to do that because of technology. And even being able to move to California from Montana, it worked because I'm able to communicate and collaborate with my team remotely, be able to still maintain all of those partnerships. And I mean, our mentors are in 5 countries and 20 states. And so we're all over doing a lot of different things, and technology is what's made that possible. But it was never really my intention. It just kind of, I followed where my emotions took me and followed what my body was telling me, which was, hey, slow down and do something else. And here we are doing a lot better, I'd say.
That is fantastic advice for all of those of you who are considering a gap year. See how amazing and wonderful and successful she is with her very cool app. Gap years can help. I just want to make a quick note. If any of you guys have any questions, including the panelists, if you want to ask each other questions, feel free to do so. We actually have a question in the chat for Soraya. So it sounds like your project and your goal is very rooted in your personal experience and your personal feelings, and especially mentioning, you know, that time to step back. I think that really shines through. So this question is, what are some unexpected issues or difficulties that have arisen through your involvement and creation of your own organization and work based on like this personal attachment?
Yeah, one place I'd start is how important legal considerations are. So when I started this out, I was like, oh, I have this like great idea. I'm going to do this thing. And then it was kind of legal roadblock after legal roadblock. Like I had no idea that I didn't even know what incorporating a company meant or what those kinds of legal protections are, or like why you would form a nonprofit versus a for-profit corporation. And then since we connect college students with high school students, what that could look like to a parent is, so you're going to connect strange people to my child through an app. And so there's a lot of considerations there where the parents need to know that the mentors have been screened and trained, that they're not going to, that we're not connecting like predators that are going to harm their children. And then similarly with schools, I think the schools has been a really big challenge because they're under a lot of regulation. The teachers and the staff are very burnt out. They're very overburdened, but it ends up being one of the most easy ways to access the students. And so that was a challenge I wasn't expecting, was to have this product or like have this functioning mentoring program, but to not be able to get it to the students who needed it because of those legal barriers or barriers within the school. And then that we do have to have parent permission. And so we have run into a couple of situations where the parents, like, even despite all of these efforts to make sure that the mentors are safe people, and we're trying to like work with the parents to say like, hey, this is how it works, there's still a distrust, even like that mental health stigma like I talked about earlier. And so another way that we're not able to bring it to the students who need it the most. So those are a lot of the challenges I wasn't expecting when I started, but with every challenge there's been a way to move through it, and very grateful for the people who have helped me to get through those. Some of those obstacles, like, you have to just face head on and get through them, and others you can kind of skirt around or like make do by choosing a different path. And I feel like being an entrepreneur is knowing when to push really hard and when to push, or like when to pull back and then kind of go around. But I had no idea when I started like what I was getting myself into, but still really grateful that I pushed through a lot of those challenges and still decided to be like, yep, I'm going to try to get into like the hardest industry with some of the hardest to reach kids, because there's not many people who do stick it out.
To go ahead and make this question applicable to you as well, James, what are some challenges that you guys faced as you were going through and taking on these projects, deciding what you wanted to do, how you wanted to integrate this psychology and technology, you know, mishmash into your future? What were some of the difficulties that you overcame? And then James, if you would like to start, and then Soraya, if you have anything else that you want to talk about.
I think for me, I think the hardest thing for me was, as a psych major, it's really hard to get involved with the technology field, because usually people assume that technology means you have to be good at math, you have to be good at just certain things that fall outside of psychology, which is not necessarily true, I don't think. I think, yeah, like as a psych major, I think it's really hard to get into the tech field, and you do need to do certain, like, I guess, get involved with certain activities that can help you stand out in the software field, especially for when I was applying to jobs. I had a lot of like rejections from software companies because they don't want a psychology major, right? They want a computer science major. They want a statistic major or something like that. Um, I definitely do think luck played a big factor in me getting where I am today. Um, but at the same time, I think being proactive and getting involved with like projects or activities outside of like school, for example, like coding during free time, doing hackathons, stuff like that, they all like helped me get to where I am today. Um, sorry, did I answer the question? What was I didn't catch the full question.
Just some of the challenges and difficulties you face to get where you are today in your field and in your work.
Okay, yeah, I think, yeah, I pretty much covered most of it then, yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that. It's hard to take kind of a non-traditional path or have like the non-typical degree program for what you're looking for. I think the grad school application was really challenging for me, or like that grad school process, because I didn't have a psychology background. And so I was trying to work with these really well-known and very amazing researchers, but they're like, you don't have a developmental psychology background, and they wouldn't even have a conversation with me. And so a lot of rejections along the way, but then I talked with Liz, who's my advisor now, and she was not only just like, it was the complete opposite. She wasn't like, oh, I'm disappointed that you don't have a developmental psychology background, but she was like, oh, like a master's in business, that's going to be incredibly valuable. And so do what makes you happy, follow the decisions, and like do what you feel like is best for your interest, and then find the opportunities that fit those. You should never try to change who you are to try to fit what someone else wants you to be. And so even if that means taking a different path, or like doing the psychology major with the computer science minor instead of the computer science major with the psychology minor, the opportunities will come as long as you're doing what feels authentic to you.
Very, very sound advice. Thank you so much. So we just talked about the difficult aspects. So let's take a positive turn. What are the things that you most enjoy about your current work? What really gets you excited to be doing what you're doing?
I think the root of like technology is like solving problems, right? Like technology is such a versatile like, tool to have, and being able to utilize that tool to solve like big problems, whether it's small or big, it's like always kind of satisfying. I think at least for me, like when I'm coding, if I get like a certain output, it makes me like happy. There's like a small like adrenaline, I guess. That's what kind of like gets me going, I guess. What keeps me motivated to like finish my code or stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's the little things.
Yeah, did you notice that when she asked that question, both of us just smiled really, really big? And I think that's a good indicator that we're in a career on the path that we both really enjoy, that's very aligned with our values and our passions. I think what came to mind when you asked that question was how excited I've been with the mentees that I've been working with on the app, and how the majority of them have been telling me about the relationships that they've gotten into. So the one of them is like, oh, like I just got a boyfriend and it was really cute. He like asked me out on the slides and then he bought me tacos and boba. And then another one was like, it's a little bit dramatic, but oh my goodness, I'm here for it. And so I just really love that I created this platform where I can have these really small positive interactions. And it really is about the small wins in the day-to-day to keep you going when there's hard things. If you ever find yourself in this mindset of like, well, I just need to get to here, or I just need to get through this, it's probably an indicator that you're in a place that's not fulfilling you in the day-to-day. And so like there will be moments like that, you know, like it feels like it's week 20,000 right now. I'm a little bit tired, but still having those small wins every day, so that you know that you're in the right place. But I'm really grateful for those kiddos sharing their relationship problems with me.
We just got a question in the chat. Is there any one program, skill, mentor, or experience that best helped you to get where you are today? So something that most helped you to get to your current position?
I think for me, it was like sticking to like my hobby of like coding during my free time. because like the thing with coding is for me, you just need a computer. You don't really need anything like super fancy. Like I think nowadays most students have a computer, and if you don't have a computer, you can go to like the resource center and they'll lend you one. So it's a very easy access tool that you can have. And I think just being able to like dabble in code here and there during my free time, I think that definitely helped me get to where I am. And also getting to know other people in the field, that helps as well. Just building connections in general.
I still don't have an answer. There's so many programs and skills and mentors and things that help me along the way. But I would say that I think when I started my undergrad, I could get very stuck in my own head and be thinking about things so much, but not actually doing anything. And so learning that skill of taking action on what I've been thinking about, and being able to do that kind of quickly, especially being an entrepreneur, like building this technology, you have to make a lot of decisions every day, and you can't get so stuck on like in decision land that you don't make any decision at all. And so that skill of being able to make informed decisions quickly and being able to just like move on from them. And if it is a decision with big consequences, like do take your time and slow down a little bit, but don't ever get stuck, and just like keep moving forward. Even if you're moving in a direction that you end up moving away from, just being able to keep moving, I think is the biggest skill that I've had. And then whatever experiences you do have end up being surprisingly valuable. Like there's so many things where I'm like, I had no idea. There's always this story about Steve Jobs that he went to like a typography class, that he didn't even take the class, but he went in there and he was like, oh, like I really want Apple computers to have beautiful font. And so then like everything that we see here with like the user experience of like being able to see things, like code was just this crazy, there wasn't like a user interface kind of thing that was client facing. Like, sorry, I'm getting into lingo things, but there was this like unlikely connection that he made from this class that he was sitting in on that completely changed the way that we all interact with technology as we know it. And so lots of really small ways, just keep moving forward, just like keep doing little things. Don't get too stuck in your own head, or like the fear of making the wrong decision hold you back.
I would actually like to circle back to something that both of you have touched on, which is some campus resources, or resources as in like actual physical resources, but also support networks that really supported you as you were going through this. So James, I know you mentioned, I think building a computer on campus. And then Zarai, you mentioned how Dr. Davis has been super supportive and, letting you take these skills and build your own experience. I was wondering if you guys could elaborate more on either those or other resources, like specifically here at UCR, that you think would be really helpful for people to know about if they want to get involved in the technological side of psychology.
Just to clarify, I think what I mentioned was they lend out like laptops for students to use. So that's what they do. I forgot the link. There is a link. If you search up like UCR rent a laptop, you'll probably find something. I remember a lot of people had, or at least I knew a couple of friends from CS classes where they had to like lend a laptop. And from their experience, it seems to be pretty reliable. As for other tools on campus, I think not necessarily tools, but more like or resources. It's more like join like clubs that are involved in technology. That's also a big one. Like for example, I think the one that comes to the top of my head for UX design, I think we have a club called Design at UCR, I believe. And they focus a lot on like user experience. So that's a club that you can check out if you're interested. Yeah, that's like the first one that comes to mind. There might be other clubs too nowadays, but I don't know what you guys have nowadays, but that's the one that I remember when I was undergrad.
Still pretty new. One thing that I really appreciate, so I had that gap year where I didn't have access to a lot of school resources, and I found out how expensive things are when you can't take advantage of student discounts. So even something this is like, because I love snowboarding, you can get a really great like half off of a snowboarding or like of the Icon Pass because you're a student. And similarly, like you can access a bunch of different software tools like Qualtrics, which is the survey program that I use for my research. If I were to pay for that not as a student, it would be like $1,500 a month if I wanted to use the same features that I would have here. So there's lots of different software kind of perks that you can get. And even if it's not directly through UCR, There's organizations like Unidays or Student Beans where you can even, if you sign up for a Costco membership through them, then you'll get a $30 gift card. And so lots of different ways to kind of piece together your finances because grad school stipends are not that much, but lots of things that you can take advantage of while you're a student. And I think one of the other things that comes to mind is being able to access literature. So if you're doing any type of reading and you're like, okay, I want to know what the field of psychology or like technology thinks about this, you can access any article for free because you're a student, and you'll lose access to that once you graduate. And so kind of take advantage of that, learn as much as you possibly can, and kind of leverage what you have access to or like what the university pays for while you still have access to it.
Zaraya, I actually am wondering, do you have any recommendations for resources from when you were not here at UCR? I know you mentioned that there was a lot of barriers, especially, you know, article access. I know all the students were taking it for granted now. Once we graduate, we're going to miss that library database. But is there any recommendation for stuff that you found like maybe affordable and helpful before you came here that might be good for graduating students?
I did take advantage. There were a couple of programs that Montana State had for recent graduates. And so I believe that you can still access like your health insurance through UCR even. For like up to a year, you can still go to the gym, I think, for up to a year for like a big discount. And so I definitely took advantage of those in Montana. And then I know of people here who have done that for UCR. Ooh, I don't have much else coming to mind. I'll keep thinking about it.
I have a resource, but it's not really like school related. It's more like you can just find it up on the internet. It's called resumeworded.com, I believe. It's a website that can rate your resume, I guess. It was very useful for me when I was applying for jobs. I can like get a basic resume parser to like grade my resume and tell me, hey, how are you doing the resume? Because a lot of companies nowadays, when you apply for jobs, they use resume parsers. So if you can't even pass the test on this website, you're probably not going to pass the resume parser, which means you're not going to get an interview. So being able to like grade your resume is a very helpful tool, I would say. So yeah, check that out if you're interested in improving your resume.
That's a very helpful tip, James. Thank you. I have another question from the chat. Do either of you know a good starting place if someone who is inexperienced with coding wants to learn more and get some practice in? I know, James, you were pretty kind of self-taught you did a lot of stuff on your own. So I don't know if you have a recommendation for a resource for someone who doesn't know where to look or not in CS classes, but they want to try doing it on their own.
I do have one. It's called Free Code Camp. You can actually even get free certificates from doing their labs, I believe. Let's see. I took their course during summer of 2020, I think, and I built like a few websites on my own. They basically hold your hand throughout the class and they teach you how to like build a website with HTML, JavaScript, CSS, stuff like that. So if you want to like try coding, an easy entry point is always like building a website. Build your own website. Just like know the foundations of like HTML, CSS, and then with JavaScript, that always helps. Although I don't really consider HTML and CSS as code because you're not really using. It's more of like a structural syntax. But they also teach you JavaScript, so that's like the actual code stuff. So it's definitely like a starting point to like work with to see if you actually are interested in coding. If not, that's cool too. So I think it's always like good to try something before you knock it. But yeah.
I've been taking a few kind of online courses through something called Udemy. And I can find the link for that. And so they have a wide variety of things that you can learn. And I know Udemy is not the only platform. So I've been taking like drum lessons and how to do things on Procreate because I want to get better at drawing. And so a lot more of the like artistic focused classes. But they end up being like $15 for pretty good education. And there's also like YouTube videos if you want to find them. And if you like, you shouldn't have to pay a lot of money to be able to access good content and being able to learn skills. You might have to dive a little bit deeper and it's going to be a lot of kind of self-directed learning. But if you want it, the information is there and there's ways to kind of move through it or like ways to access it. But Udemy's been a fun, like more casual way to start of like, oh, I want to develop this skill that I have no idea how to get started on. Has been really helpful for that.
Thank you both for sharing those resources. And for those of you who are in person, check out our recap email. We'll make sure to put all these links for those of you who are sitting up straight with bright eyes. For our last question, unless anyone else wants to throw some in, so feel free. Is there anything that you would want to tell graduating students who are interested in getting involved in this field, like your golden piece of advice to guide them on their journey?
I think just try it. I think that's my like first answer that comes to mind. Just give it a shot. See if you like it. If you don't like it, that's cool too. But like Zariah said, you don't actually need to be part of the coding process to be involved with technology, because you can also, because I feel like psychology majors, we can give like a different perspective, which is why I think user experience is kind of tied with psychology. Because for coders, I guess we're good at following instructions, I think. For coders, they're very good at following instructions, but we're not very bright in terms of like usability, seeing like from a different perspective. So I think like psychology is like a good way to like give a different perspective that a regular CS major would not consider. So I think that's also why my company took a chance on me, because I could bring a different perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that. Just try things. Get out there and do something, even if it ends up not being where you stay, just doing something and making connections and doing the best you can wherever you're at. That'll be the most valuable thing is putting in the best effort to learn as much as you can wherever you are, so that you can have that different perspective wherever that next step takes you. And always like doing something that you love. Like never be in a place that you're not happy in because someone else told you that you should be there or you feel like it's expected of you. Like you should always be doing something that you love, and just doing something, like trying it out. I will say it's okay if you don't love like one thing. A lot of people don't have a single passion. And so kind of keeping that in mind that you can have a lot of different interests and you can explore those kind of one at a time or find a way to uniquely combine them. But if you're sitting here and you're like, well, I don't know exactly what I'm in love with, that's totally fine. Just like try different things one at a time.
Thank you both for sharing. With that, we're going to go ahead and wrap our panel up. Thank you both for sharing all these wonderful resources. If you guys are interested in those resources, as a reminder, it's sent out on our weekly email. Feel free to talk to Zariah while she's here, reach out to James. We also, James mentioned the UX Club design at UCR. We have someone involved in the club, our DEO Jocelyn, if you'd like to ask her some questions. But for now, thank you both so much for sharing your expertise and your resources. And that will be all for our general meeting. Thank you.
If you also need the sign-in sheet,